Well, the House Oversight Committee sending subpoenas to Bank of America, J.P. Morgan Chase, HSBC, and Cathay Bank. Regulators want financial records belonging to the Biden family and their business associates. Chairman of the committee, James Comer, accusing ranking member Raskin of leaking the news, telling Fox News Raskin wants to, quote, thwart cooperation from other witnesses. Joining me right now is South Carolina Congressman, member of the House Judiciary and Oversight Committees, and the president of the GOP freshman class, Russell Fry, is here. Congressman, it's good to see you. Thanks very much for being here. James Comer has been on this program a lot, talking about these bank records. What are the Democrats doing? Tell me about Jamie Raskin leaking this information, and do you think you'll get the records?
Well, Maria, thank you for having me. This reminds me, in law school, we learned about if the facts aren't on your side, argue the law. If the law is not on your side, argue the facts. If neither is on your side, you pound the table. And this seems to be what House Democrats are doing. They recognize the problem. They recognize for 2 years they haven't done any investigations into this, into whether there's collusion, whether there's influence peddling going on with the Biden family. So now they're pounding the table in an effort to really thwart this committee's investigations. I think, ultimately, we're going to get to the bottom of this. Obviously, we have the suspicious activity reports that we received just a few weeks ago, and now we're going after the actual bank records to show the transactions. And what's alarming to me, and I think alarming to the American people, is that you continue to see our worst fears come true, that there is a middleman, Mr. Walker, who received $3 million, and then through a series of transactions, that money is pumped out to various members of the Biden family. And so these records are going to be really crucial to our investigations.
So Rob Walker receives a $3 million wire from Chinese partners, and then the next day distributes much of it to the Biden family members. What specifically was China paying for? What was that $3 million check for?
Well, that's what we all have questions for. I think the American people have those same questions, Maria. You look at this and it's suspicious. If it's legitimate, why wasn't it paid directly to the Biden family members themselves? What did Haley Biden or Hunter Biden or even Beau Biden have anything to do with this Chinese company? It just looks suspicious. It doesn't pass the smell test in my mind at all. And so these bank records are really going to be crucial, I think, to showing what types of transactions occurred over the life of this entire project. Were there transactions prior to this? What happened after? We still don't know. And I think these bank records will be hopefully fruitful.
This is just one more indication and one more story behind the reason that people do not trust Biden to do the right thing. A new Pew Research Center poll finds that more than half of Americans do not have confidence in Biden's ability to deal with China. Congressman, you've sent the subpoenas. Your committee has sent the subpoenas to these major banks. What's the timing? Do you expect to get those bank records from these major banks? And when?
Well, I think the banks have already indicated that they're going to comply, so that we hope that they do that in a timely way, so that we can get those records, look at them, evaluate them for what they are. And of course, as the initial tranche of documents were released with the suspicious activity reports, they shed light on really what's going on. So hopefully these bank records continue to do that, so that we can find more evidence out there that needs to be investigated.
Let me ask you, I know that, there is a thinking that, well, these people wanted access to the White House. They wanted access to then Vice President Joe Biden. But do we know if that money was allocated as a payment for helping China gain access to deals in America? Did they want, approval from CFIUS on a deal? Did they want to buy farmland? Did they want to buy energy companies in America? What do you know of in terms of transactions that this money could have paid for?
Well, we don't know, right? We know that the $3 million came in from a Chinese company to a well-known Biden associate and then distributed out. It's remarkable to me, Haley Biden, for an example, was a school teacher, right? I mean, what does she have to do with energy companies or policy on an international scale? These are legitimate questions. And to me, it just doesn't pass the smell test, right? I mean, I think we look at this continually and go, why would members of the Biden family who have no nexus to energy policy or energy companies at all, why would they be receiving thousands and thousands of dollars?
Yeah, and then we see the two tiers of justice. The House Judiciary Committee now has sent out a subpoena to the former New York prosecutor Mark Pomerantz for his role in former President Trump's indictment. The Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg, is fighting back, accusing Republicans of, quote, unprecedented campaign of harassment and intimidation. After that subpoena, Congressman, where does the committee go from here in terms of getting to the bottom of what's behind the Trump indictment?
Well, I think by Bragg's own admission, he is admitted to using federal funds for this prosecution. So with federal funds and their use comes oversight. And I think he continues to try to blow up our own investigation into this. I think the American people have legitimate questions. Look, by polling that we've seen, a majority of Americans think that this was a political hit job. And so getting to the bottom of this, highlighting this, seeing what is going on beneath the surface of these indictments, I think is really important because it does highlight what you said, a two-tiered system of justice. You have presidential records in this elaborate raid in Mar-a-Lago, but the Biden family is allowed to just give, by their own admission, boxes of documents. I mean, it continues to highlight Americans' worst fears that our system of justice is contingent on which political party that you're a part of.
Well, I believe Biden sent 1,850 boxes of documents to the University of Delaware. It's unclear how many of those are classified, but of course we know that there are classified documents at the University of Pennsylvania, the Penn Biden Center. Monica Crowley, jump in here.
Yeah, you know, Congressman, as this investigation is ongoing, it's fascinating to me, having worked at Treasury, that now Treasury has been forced to turn over those suspicious activities reports. Initially, we heard that there were about 150. Now we're hearing that it could be north of 250 reports. What can you tell us in terms of what you have seen from those SARS reports and how it's going to relate to the bank subpoenas?
Well, I think that the SARS reports are alarming in the sense that they even exist in the first place, right? I mean, what we know is that this money transferred. Why? What services were promised or delivered for that? And what does the Biden family have to do with any of this? I think this is at the crux of really the investigation into where we're headed. And you know, the story is yet to be written at this point, but it's enough to be alarming that we're continuing to issue subpoenas, ask for whistleblowers to come forward. That whistleblowers are already cooperating, it sounds like. And so, you know, we're going to get to the bottom of this. That's why we are here. That's why the American people elected us to perform this oversight.
Congressman, real quick, what are you going to get from Mark Pomerantz? And do you have the ability to subpoena Alvin Bragg?
Well, I think if at the end of the day with Mr. Bragg, if federal funds are used, my argument is federal funds provides oversight. That if this was a uniquely state case and no federal dollars were used, well, maybe we wouldn't have that oversight capability. But here you've got a former president of the United States that is charged by a state district attorney. This looks like a political hit job. It is. I mean, obviously, Alvin Bragg continued or was fundraising off of this, as came out this past weekend with members of the New York delegation. And so this looks like find your target first and prosecute after. And so we're going to get to the bottom of this. I think we have that capability.
Yeah, they got their man. Now they have to get the crime. Congressman, thanks very much for being here. We'll keep a spotlight on it. We appreciate your time. Congressman Russell Fry joining us. Thank you, sir.